Welcome all to today's webinar. I'm Michael Umpierre. I'm the director of the Center for Juvenile Justice Reform at Georgetown University's McCourt School of Public Policy. And we are delighted you're with us today for this special conversation in advance of our upcoming Janet Reno forum. As you know, this year's forum will be a virtual conference that we're hosting on July 26th through the 29th, an event that's sponsored by Casey Family Programs that will explore the paths that systems can take to support young people who are involved in the child welfare and juvenile justice systems, otherwise known as crossover youth. If you haven't registered for the forum yet, we hope you'll do so as soon as possible because it really is shaping up to be a wonderful event with a terrific lineup of speakers and presenters. We'll be covering at the 2021 Janet Reno Forum many important topics, including but not limited to things like how to use data and research to shape our efforts on behalf of crossover youth, how to best partner with youth and families and individuals with lived experience on system reform efforts, how to advance race equity and address disparities faced by youth of color, how to prevent system involvement in the first place through strong partnerships with the community, and how to best collaborate across systems, including child welfare, juvenile justice, education, behavioral health, and other systems of care to best position young people and families for long-term success. So we're really excited about the forum. We hope you are as well. And if by chance you haven't registered, we'll be dropping in the chat here the link to our forum webpage for you to learn more about the event. And I also want to say that we hope that you'll stay with us for the entirety of this webinar because we have an exciting announcement to share about the forum at that time. So please stay with us for the entire conversation. For those of you who follow us on social media or who subscribe to the CJJR newsletter, you know that as a lead up to the 2021 Janet Reno Forum, we've been releasing a number of spotlight materials and resources related to the conference's theme and topics. Again, this focus on improving outcomes for crossover youth. And that's what brings us together today. We're honored today to be joined by the inspirational and amazing Santiago Rizzo, a film producer, director, writer, actor, and so much more, who has a remarkable personal story and who has produced a beautiful film that tells the story of a crossover youth. Santi and I go way back more than 20 years now, Santi, if you can believe it, to the time when I was a college student at Stanford University and a counselor at a summer enrichment program for high school students, known at the time as the Stanford Youth Environmental Science Program, a program that Santi participated in as a student when I was a counselor, and in fact, a program that I had participated when I was in high school as well. Since that time, Santi went on to attend and graduate from Stanford University with degrees in economics and psychology. He went on to work in Wall Street as a stock analyst and portfolio manager, and then ventured into the world of film as a producer, director, writer, and actor. And we'll get into all of that in just a minute. But for now, let me just say that it really is a pleasure to reconnect with Santiago in this context and to have the opportunity to spread the word about his film, his work, and his life. So Santi, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you. We look forward to the conversation.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm you were in and out with the internet, but so happy to be here. And I was smiling when you said actor as well. I had a cameo in the movie. I wouldn't. Yes. Thank you for having me.
I knew you'd get a kick out of that one, Santi. Before we delve into the discussion here, let me just for our audience address a couple of housekeeping items. The first is that this session is being recorded. and we do hope to share the recording for all of those who couldn't be with us today. So we'll be sure to do that. The second is we are taking questions from you all in the audience today. So please submit your questions for Santiago as we have this conversation. If you have questions about the film, about what it was like to produce it, why it was produced, any thoughts on the impact that it may have on serving young people in this position like crossover youth. Any questions, we want to hear them from you all. So please don't be shy from using the chat function on your screen here or the questions box, whatever's in front of you. We won't be opening up the phone lines, but we will be taking those questions in writing from you all. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get this started and delve deeper into this discussion with Santi about the film. The film is called The Only Question. And I think that the best way, if it's okay with you, Santi, I think that the best way to get us going here, just to pique people's interest in the film, is to go ahead and show the trailer of the film, and then we can use that kind of to set the context and the background to our conversation. So if that's okay with you, I'll ask Hannah and Victoria to show the trailer for everybody.
And I'll just say, this is a rough trailer, a new one we just put together. We just did a reshoot of, we had originally shot the movie Quest, and just did a reshoot with Greg Kazian, the kid older, doing more healing and showing ways in which we can heal. And so this is a rough trailer that we just recently put together.
Excellent, thank you.
You just gotta trust the struggle.
Feed my soul, meditate my mind and move. Sweet melody that soothes my soul, meditate my mind and move. My heart found prayer in the depth of despair. Times I had nothing when I learned how to share. This is my inner was just a baby. While I was scared, I discovered my courage. While I was lost under rocks in connection and purpose. All alone, I discovered that we're never alone. All connected, we're already home. Things aren't always what they seem. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Trust is a must. Conjure up the key. Gotta pull the arrow backwards before it is released. Feast of famine, swimming like a salmon upstream till our dreams explode like a cannon. Hope we can abandon, forever remain standing. Each quest is blessed with a heavenly companion. Not trust in my struggle. Touching the question, new people rest. It's time to drown rivers out the cold chest. Why is the heart that warms the world fresh? So yes, say less, living my spiritual nest. Sweet act, sweet my soul, meditate my mind and move my heart.
Spend enough time getting hammered. Pretty soon everything is like, yeah.
Sweet melody that sweet my soul, meditate.
What are we even doing if not helping the kids that see it?
All right, there it is. There it is. Well, Santi, I've got to say, for that being a rough trailer, it's pretty powerful.
Could you see it? Because I didn't see it. I just saw a bunch of skipped images. Maybe you guys could see it, but I didn't see anything there. So
I think your connection, I think, may be a little bit off. I was able to see it and hear it just fine, and I think it's a powerful piece. So let's talk a little bit about the film, Santi. So I know that this was a very personal project for you, right? On many levels, in part because, spoiler alert, this is the story of your life, right? But it's also the product of a promise that you made. So can you tell us a little bit about the film? What is it about? Why did you make it? What was the promise that you made? What led to the film? But just give us an overview about what the film is about and why you went down this path to produce it.
Well, so I lived with my teacher. I lived with Tim since I was 12. So when we met in the Stanford Youth Environmental Science program, I was living with Tim in high school. You know, he was my coach at first, and saw that he saw my acting out was a cry for help. And you know, he eventually became my family, and he wanted to write a book about, you know, after I went to Stanford, and you know, he wanted to write a book about our story. And I remember thinking, why write a book? Let's write a movie. So we wrote a screenplay together, and that was in like 2000 or something. It was, you know, 15 years ago or so, and wrote a screenplay. And he passed away of pancreatic cancer in 2011. During his last year, I left my career, and we bought a house together. And I was in the Bay Area building the house and writing the screenplay with him. That was a project we were doing. And you know, Tim never broke a promise to me. He always told me the truth. He won my trust by being honest. He shifted my ability to trust in humanity and trust in others by being that integrity himself. And when he took his last breath, I was holding his hand. I don't know why I said this. I hadn't planned on saying it. I promised him that the baseball field would be built in his honor. There's a baseball field in Berkeley called Tim Mullering Field that the city of Berkeley built in his honor since. And I told him that I would make the screenplay we wrote together into the movie. And that was a promise that I could not break.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a really incredible story. I think for those of you listening to us today, I think what you need to know is that Santiago made an incredible personal investment to get this film done. Personal resources, his life's work, the amount of time and energy put into this film has been incredible. And it's a testament not only to Santiago's, you know, commitment and relentless desire to tell the world about Tim and who he was, but also about young people overall. And as we think about the youth population that we're seeking to help as part of our work, it's kids like, you know, Santi, when you were younger, and situations and that you were presented with. Tell us
Yeah,
a little bit. Tell us a little bit, Santi, about what was going on in your life at the time that you met Tim, that his mentorship and guidance was so critical. Tell us a little bit about kind of your own personal story there. What was going on at the time that you met Tim?
Yeah, so you know, the new movie that we shot starts off with, you know, Lakeith Stanfield, who is inspired by my best friend Toby Eagle, who was shot and killed in 2011. And you know, Toby was black. We were best friends growing up, and I had a lot of privileges that he didn't have that I could fit in. And you know, through Quest Scholars, which was the Stanford Youth Environmental Science program, I basically got into Stanford, and through that got a mentor to get a job on Wall Street and all the rest. And I had a lot of privileges that some of my other friends didn't have, and I really felt the need to give back and share Tim's spirit of service and giving back. He was such a beautiful man like that. But before meeting Tim, I was, my stepfather had been in prison for 17 years. He was very abusive. He hadn't had the tools yet to heal himself, and he didn't have faith that he could heal. And he was in a lot of pain, and he took it out on me as a child, and didn't like my father, didn't like that I was a golden child. Golden meaning, my father, for whatever reason, he didn't like me, and I was getting into a lot of trouble, and I couldn't tell the world about it. Couldn't tell other people. I didn't want to be judged. Felt a lot of shame, and sat alone a lot as a kid, and started doing a lot of graffiti, petty crime. I'd gotten arrested several times. I was sent to juvenile hall. I was about to be put on probation, and then Tim actually knew the brother of the head of probation, and essentially kept me from that path. And I was also in a foster home for a little while prior to that as well, which wasn't a good situation. My brother came to foster care with me, and that was what was going on when I was 12 years old, and I didn't look it. And that's also part of, I was extremely manipulative, and I could get away with it because I was a really cute kid, and so I was able to just you know, really act like a kid, but I was struggling. I was, and I didn't even know it at the time. It just was acted out as manipulation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, your story is so incredible, thinking about where you are today, and what you've overcome, and, the trauma, that you experienced. And now that, you're in a position where you've produced this beautiful film, and we really want folks all around the country to see it and to be moved by it, because one of the things that it tells and it really highlights is something actually that we at the Janet Reno Forum are really lifting up, which is this idea that every kid, including and perhaps especially young people who are involved in the justice system and in child welfare and in other systems, that every kid needs someone, right, in their life. They need that supporter, that advocate, that teacher, that mentor, someone that they can turn to for that unconditional love and support. And what's so beautiful about this film is that it really highlights that relationship between, you and Tim in that sense. Tell
He
us,
shared, he
tell us
shared,
more about Tim.
he shared his privilege. He had stability. He was very stable, and he shared his stability with me, and that was really shifting. You know, he was always there for me. He didn't judge me. He always told the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. He forgave. Um, it's not just me. He was a real leader. He I think he was smarter than most at his time. He really saw that, the way that we're going to heal is by being honest and forgiving one another, and all of us sharing. And that's who he was. That's what he taught me. And it was just like, it wasn't even a question about making the movie, just because my heart was crying out for so long while working on Wall Street. It just was crying out to give back in the same way that Tim gave to me. But he was a very humble man. He knew U.S. history really well. One of the smart, his friends, we were hanging out the other day, and he was telling us that he played Trivial Pursuit with Tim, and he'd put a whole team of 4 people against him, and he'd still win. He was like a dork with history. He really knew history really well. But he was. I have, met a lot of people in the world. I've been very privileged to be in circles within the business community, within the spiritual community. I've met the Dalai Lama a couple times. I've met people all over, and Tim was the most conscious man I've ever met. He was the most honest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
So I've been very blessed to have him.
Well, I think that for all of us who work in the youth serving field and who are working on behalf of kids, really hearing what you're saying about Tim's impact and his approach, and that kind of at the core was honesty, was this idea that you would be there for you at any point, was a constant, was consistent. Santi, I understand that Tim had top 10 rules to live by, and I actually have them in front of me. I wanted to share this with the audience because I think that they're so insightful. Okay, so if you don't mind, here are Tim's top 10 rules to live by.
And Michael, can I tell you just really quickly before you read them?
Please.
So before Tim died, he told me, actually gave me these rules before he died. He handed them to me. And he said and I asked him, "What are you doing, Tim?" He says, I want the world to read them." And I remember thinking, the world, how are you, but he wanted to inspire the world because he really lived by these principles. And Tim was a man that was loved by everyone. If you go on our website and look at like his memorial and just see how diverse, how many people came pouring out to share their love for him, he was loved by everyone. And he lived by these rules. So
that's great. Yeah, thanks for setting that up. And here they are. And I think it would be nice to share this in writing with folks so that you can digest them as well. But here are Tim's top 10 rules to live by. Number 1, have empathy for everyone. Number 2, tell the truth. Number 3, be reliable. Number 4, assume positive intent. Number 5, be physically active. Number 6, just do it. Doing something is better than nothing. Number 7, don't blame anyone. Number 8, your possessions can be replaced. Number 9, carpe diem, seize the day. And number 10, solve your problems. He was a special person, and it's really, wonderful that we have the ability now to continue on his legacy and to let people know about his impact through this film. Santi, let's talk a little bit about the film itself and the cast in particular. As you noted, you've got an incredible cast. The actor who played the young man in the film, Greg Cassian, terrific performance. But you also have some actors that are well known in the field. Lou Diamond Phillips is featured in the film. Betsy Brandt, who some of you may recall from the show Breaking Bad and other films and shows, and who you mentioned, Lakeith Stanfield, who was in Jordan Peele's Get Out and was most recently nominated for an Oscar, right, in his performance in Judas and the Black Messiah. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to work with this cast on this film and to produce it.
Thanks, Michael. And let me just throw in a side note. For those rules to live by, there are comments beneath each one of those rules that he gave that give more specifics as to what he meant with each one. So make sure if you like them, read them. But yeah, Tim really knew how to put himself in other people's shoes and other people's skin and walk around in it. And knew that telling the truth is how you build trust, and how we can forgive one another over time. So he was very wise. Yeah, I mean, there was an incredible cast. We had a great casting director who was really good with children. And so she was just going to help me find Greg. And we actually went to the juvenile, we actually went to San Leandro's Juvenile Detention Center, and we went to other places to try and find a kid. I went to Compton. I tried my best to find a kid that was, been through some trauma himself and is really dealing with it. And it was very difficult to get an actor who could perform both the humanity and also the roughness, and also had a parent that would allow him to be in a shoot for 6 weeks. And so Greg was phenomenal. He was like the best actor in the room. So we found Greg, and then through that other people came to the project because the managers kept seeing how I worked with the actors, and then they'd go and have more confidence to go to their other clients. And then we got Dash, and Lakeith Stanfield is phenomenal. He's got spirit. He had spirit then. He still has it. There's a reason why he's talented. He comes from struggle. I'm a big believer that struggle, can turn into art, that there's a need to release, and truth can come through that. And it's always coming out in his performances. But it was phenomenal. I mean, I said this like it was easier to work with the kids because they listened, and then I'm dealing with professionals that have such knowledge and vision and skill and craft. And sometimes I had a different craft, and I'm not as professional at the time. So it was challenging at the time to work with some of the adults, but their performance is phenomenal in the movie. So they, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it's I don't know what to say. Lou was great. Everybody mentored me. Dash was amazing. Dash is just such a solid guy. He always helped me find the best. Always, and we had a crew that was extremely experienced that made sure that I didn't mess up too much at times and would fight me when they knew a lot better. So we had a really good group of people helping with the movie.
So I got to ask, Santi, you mentioned the cameo that you have in the film. Were you more nervous? On which side of the camera were you more nervous?
Oh, I did a reshoot of that. Yeah, no, I was very nervous. Like I wasn't present. I had so much in my head because I produced and directed it, which you should never do. But I did it because I couldn't get the money for it. Nobody wanted to produce this. No agent wanted to help with this kind of movie. They didn't think that anyone would want to see a story about this kind of kid. you know, and so I produced it myself, and I never planned to direct this. I never had an intention of directing it myself, but I couldn't get the agencies to help, and I couldn't get the money and all the rest of it. So I had a lot in my head at the time. So acting as well with scheduling and everything else was difficult. Yeah, I was definitely nervous in that scene. I play a businessman that buys the art and tells the kids that they're getting ripped off because the kids are basically, you know, hating on rich people and really hating on, as understood, and hating on, you know, those that don't come from struggle. And I wanted to be an example of somebody in the business community and also somebody with stability in a suit that does appreciate that good art comes from struggle and shared love back with them. And, you know, so I tell them that they're getting ripped off, and I give them my card for a curator that might be able to help them. And then more happens afterwards. But that was inspired by my, you know, by the love that I received from so many on Wall Street at the time that allowed me to be in that position to even make the movie in the first place.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You know, I understand, Santi, just from talking with you, that you've had the opportunity to actually show this film within juvenile detention centers around the country and prisons. And you know, we've got folks who are watching us today and who will be with us at the Janet Reno Forum, who work in those facilities, who operate those facilities, who also work with kids who are justice system involved, but perhaps placed in the community. Tell us a little bit about your experience showing the film in these juvenile detention centers and prisons. What was that like, and why did you feel it was important to do that?
Several reasons. One, you know, they're going to be the most honest with me. Okay, so from a selfish standpoint, I wanted to hear what the kids really thought of our art. Also, you know, and most of the kids, depending on where I've been, you know, I've been to Chicago's JDC, I've been to, you know, New York's, Cleveland, you know, Arkansas, you know, the Bay Area, San Francisco, etc. You know, they're mostly kids of color, and this is a little white boy. Okay, and so he doesn't look like most of the kids in the JDCs that I've been to, in Arkansas maybe, but like in general. So I really wanted them to give me some truth. And you know, I also couldn't understand why Hollywood wasn't picking up on this movie. So I wanted the inmates to tell me where I'm missing things. And I found that there's love everywhere. There's a lot of misunderstandings right now. A lot of misunderstandings of the struggle people come from to act out the hate that they're acting out. I felt love from the sheriff, many very conservative men and women. I have felt nothing but love from all the screenings with the inmates. I have learned about the children that aren't talking about the real trauma and shame that they're facing, that they're acting out with being ADD, with laughing, with becoming sociopaths, with all of these. I can see in the movie when I play it during the most emotional moments when certain kids are laughing and not able to deal with the pain. And then I could see, because through my own judgment, I used to think, wow, that's crazy that they're laughing when other kids are trying to cry to release it. And then I see that if I sit there and still in my breath and just look at them with love, they can't handle it. And all of a sudden their pain starts to come out. It's wild because they're doing things for attention because they can't sit with their own pain because they've been through so much. So, you know, it's been a beautiful experience. I've done like maybe 20 screenings and maybe more than that in some of these centers. And it's my favorite, you know, it's my favorite audience because they always give me truth and I learn the most there. And also they're able to open up. See, when it's done all together, when everyone together can share about their trauma and they see this and they see that I'm destigmatizing the abuse, I'm doing my best to do so. And they see that they are not only, so many people are not only the child, but they're also Lou Diamond Phillips' abusive stepfather, okay, or his abusive character. So they see themselves in the kid that was abused, but they also see themselves in the abuser. It really makes them think about things and recognize and see their patterns and see their behavior in a different light. And then when they meet me and they see that I'm not being judgmental towards it, because we can't heal with judgment, you know, they open up. And when everybody does it together, there's a possibility of healing.
Yeah.
And I tell the men particularly that, you know, we need to learn to cry, and we need to be okay crying now, because if we don't release the hate and release our tears, then it turns into aggression and it turns into hate, you know, and violence.
One of the things that we know in serving this population of young people is just the vast numbers of kids who are exposed to trauma and exposed to victimization, and what that means for one's life trajectory. So what you're describing in terms of young people who view the film and perhaps put up a defense mechanism through laughter, and it's really it's a way of coping with the trauma that they've experienced. And it really is a reminder to all of us who work in the youth serving field that we need to be focused on healing. We need to be focused on trauma responsive practices. And that's not just on the part of the young people that we serve, but also on the part of the staff and everybody who's working on behalf of kids, that we need to be mindful of vicarious trauma, secondary trauma, community trauma. You know, we've got current events of racial injustice, and what does that mean from a community trauma lens? We have to be mindful of all of those things as we work on behalf of kids. You know, one of the things, Santi, that you mentioned in advance of this call, this webinar, was that one thing that Tim believed and that he frequently said was that there are no bad kids, there are only bad situations. Let me say that again. There are no bad kids, there are only bad situations. When you see the young people that you've seen in these juvenile detention centers and involved in the justice system and involved in systems and in the communities that you've been in, what do you see, Santi, when you see these young children?
Well, it depends on which place and which kids, but of course. But when I walk into this, you know, the screening, usually they think it's going to be something corny. Usually they're harder, and they're putting on a front because they need to protect themselves with each other and seem tough. By the end of the movie, I see a child. I see the lightness. We see the laughter. We see the vulnerability. We see the kid. We see, that's what I see. I could give you an example of one of the hardest, there's always a story behind the action, okay? And sometimes that story is not being told, and they don't want to share what's actually going on. But I found that every one of these kids has something that they're either hiding, something they're scared of going into, something they're scared of sharing about, something they don't believe they can heal. And I see a child that has been lied to a lot, who has lost faith in humanity, lost faith in the system, lost faith in all of us, and needs more truth and love. That's what I see. And I see that when I give them love, which is without judgment, and I understand that they're struggling with their hate, they're struggling with trusting that things will get better, I feel the love from them. They give me love back. That's how I know, because I get nothing but love. One time, I was in a JDC in Arkansas, and there was one kid that was separated from everybody else because he had ripped the ligaments on 2 officers prior and put 2 officers on leave of absence for a year. And so he was separated from the other kids. Big guy, strong. And I went into his room and told him I'd really love for him to come and sit down and watch it as well, that I think there'd be some love in it for him. And he just looked me in the eyes like, nope, thanks, nope. And he didn't even say thanks, but that was the intention. I said, well, if you change your mind, one of the guards will let you in. I'd love to share this movie with you. And he came, and by the end of the movie, I could see, like, you know, he was kind of showing that bravado and laughing, and I could see, and he's just, you know, showing toughness. And I called him out on it because I could see through the energy. I could see when, because I saw him and I see him looking around when he's saying this stuff. So he's trying to get attention because he needs that reputation, because that's what's keeping him together, because he can't deal with what he's actually dealing with. And I could see it. And I called him out, and he felt it, and he ran out of the room. He didn't run out of the room, but he left the room a little early. And I told all the rest of the kids that he might be with the kid who's struggling the most, and to have empathy for him and to keep showering him with love. And the other kids started to share a little bit of the stories that they knew what he had actually been through. So, that happened. And he is one of the harder kids. He threatened to hurt me afterwards because he was embarrassed of what I did. I did it with love and intention of opening him up, but I knew at the time. And the guards were scared. They didn't want me to talk to him again. And I went into his cell, through the window, and I told him to scream into his pillow, to get to his tears. He to scream it out. And he looked me in the eyes, and he could tell that his aggression didn't work in the face of love. I didn't have aggression back. I didn't judge him for it. I understood the pain he's in to get to where he was at. And I guess to answer your question, Michael, I see the pain because I feel it myself. I understand the headaches. I understand their inability to meditate through that, to come out of that pain. And that's causing a lot of the problems. And even the psychologists, we can't just medicate it away. We have to cry it out. Literally, that's the only thing that has worked for me is meditation, prayer, nature, deep breathing, stretching, yoga, these things that are now in the movie that are woo-woo to a lot of people are not woo-woo because it stabilizes the brain. It allows us to come into a serenity again. It allows us to ground ourselves again. It allows us to be, to process, which takes time. Yeah. So healing takes time. Anyway, that kid ended up, I got a letter, from the administrator, which is on our website. And for the first time ever, he started going to school. He had not been in school and he'd been in and out of the system for years. First time ever he started going to school. And also he started sharing about his trauma for the first time ever and really began to transform, and it really surprised the staff. So love is, the only energy I feel that can heal, and all of us have it. And most of the officers who went into this field, most of the administrators, most people on this call, came into this with the right intention, and some of them have become jaded over time. And we need to shift that again and come back into a deeper love because these kids need love to heal.
Yeah, what I love about you, Santiago, is that you're so real and honest. You talk about the importance of honesty and working with kids, and you just opening up and being so candid with all of us about this really says a lot. And I think it's reflected, that honesty and that realness is reflected in this film. So, I recognize we've got about 7 minutes left here. We are getting some questions. We're getting several questions here, Santi, about where can I see this film, right? What platforms can I access it? And we've got an exciting announcement to that end. So let me share the announcement with everybody, and then we can continue with the questions. But Santiago, due to his generosity, is allowing the attendees of the Janet Reno Forum. So if you attend the forum, you will have special access to view the film online. We will be following up with all forum attendees with a special link to the film to be able to watch it. And we're so grateful, Santiago, to you for allowing that to happen so that we can, spread the impact of this film. So for those of you who are interested, please stay tuned for that. Hopefully you will be with us for the forum, and you'll be able to see it in that respect. Santi, we're also getting requests. I see we have one question from an individual who teaches at a university on juvenile justice and victimization issues. Would love to host a screening of the film at the university. I know that you're always open to that. Would you be okay if we passed on your contact information to this individual?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. And Santi, on one question here is, can you please share the link to the website referenced by Mr. Rizzo? Right. So Santi, can you give us the URL to the film's webpage?
Yeah. So unfortunately, the platforms have pushed the movie away. I think that would be the right way. I mean, it's won audience awards at many of the film festivals that it had been at. We had an original cut. The movie that we have now is a brand new cut with the kid older. And I actually start the movie off with the detention centers and a conversation that I had with the inmates. You know, about Earth, actually. The conversation is actually about Earth and how we have to heal our Mother Earth, which they all connect to, by the way. It's like we all have our essence in Earth because, well, that's a whole nother conversation, but it keeps going back and forth. And then throughout the movie now are ways in which the kid is healing as an adult. So it starts off with him doing yoga and teaching him yoga and stretching. And so anyway, but the previous film, even though that had won audience awards at the festivals that it had been at, and even though the inmates afterwards are all silent and tell me many have told me it was one of the better movies that they've ever seen. Netflix, Amazon, etc. don't think it's a movie for them. That's been the feedback, unfortunately, that I have received consistently so far, and I fight and keep trying to fight, keep staying in truth, and I know that the feedback I keep getting is that this is a movie that is honest, that deserves to be out in the world. So they keep me strong and keep me in faith, and I continue to fight for this movie to get out. But yes, I would love to share it with your attendees, Michael, who are some of the people that I respect the most. Everybody listening on this call, thank you for your service. Thank you for the love you're sharing, you know, with these kids and also with the adults that also need to heal, because, you know, the adults also have trauma and are acting the trauma out on the children, and they need to heal too if we're going to have healthy children, and we all need to help each other, because if we do not help each other, then there will never be forgiveness and we won't ever be able to heal together, and it's going to require all of us to heal together. So hopefully the movie will inspire people to go on that quest. I don't even know if I answered the full question, Michael.
That was great. That was great, Santi.
The URL is thetruthalwaysrises.com, and there are many testimonials there from the previous cut that you can listen to and better understand some of my emotion.
Great, thank you, Santi. And Hannah just put the link in the chat as well. We are getting a question here, Santi. What can we do? This is a question from one of our attendees. What can we do to get the word out about this film? What else? Obviously, this is a great opportunity. The forum, the Janet Reno Forum participants will be able to see it. We've got, you know, university professors saying, I'd love to share it. What else can folks do to get the word out about the film?
Thank you so much to all those that said that, and thank you. This version of the movie has not been seen yet. It has been seen by a handful of people. I need to figure that out, and I'm trying to get into 2 film festivals right now that could help other people see the audience again and see the reaction again for the distributors. Hopefully they can, hopefully there's a new avenue to see it again in a different light. So I'm trying to figure that one out. Also, we have this rough trailer. Maybe Michael, you can share a trailer with the participants again, and you know, those that want to share it can share it and just spread the word that way. I have an Instagram, it's Santi_Rizzo. You know, we need a platform and we need a distributor, and that has been out of my control. And maybe I've, you know, scared people with being so honest out there with some of, but healing requires truth. And so I'm not sure why yet the movie hasn't had a distributor, but it deserves one. So when that happens, please, maybe there's an email list we can collect, and when it actually has, you know, a platform to watch, people can share it with their constituents, and that would be an amazing way to launch this and get the word out to the public. Because really, you know, and also it's the homeless in the movie now, talking about the childhood trauma that the homeless have experienced, and the camps are growing, and a lot of those that are on the street right now were also abused as children. So, you know, this is a problem that the public needs to come to the rescue for. The public needs to share more, and understand the trauma that those that they judge the most have also experienced. And we have to do this as a community. It can't just be, you know, those in your constituent group, Michael. It's going to take all of us.
Absolutely. We're all in it together. We are at our time. Santiago, on behalf of CJJR and our partners, I just want to thank you for joining us today, for your courage. I mean, to be able to tell your story in the way that you have, to carry out your promise to Tim as he was passing away, and to do it in such a beautiful and powerful manner through this film is just, it's really inspirational and remarkable. And we wish you the best of luck as you continue to get the word out about this film. We look forward to sharing it with all of our forum attendees and you know, working with you to continue to spread the word about this important piece of art. So Santiago, thank you.
And thank you for the work you're doing, Michael, and for everyone on this call. Thank you so much for, you know, for your service.
Excellent. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks again for being with us. We look forward to seeing you at the Janet Reno Forum, and we'll be in touch. Take care and be well.